Hey guys, Rare Mod Reviews here, and today we'll be looking at the high grade 1-to-1 for scale Guncannon Cucuroz Doans Island version. So this is really just a upgraded, or rather updated visual look on the Guncannon here. I'm not sure how it stacks up to the revived version of the Guncannon. In fact, I'm trying to think. I want to say this thing did have some extra parts over. I'm going to assume they were from the Gundam Origins version of the Guncannon, which is really the prototype version of the Guncannon, as I couldn't see this thing using any parts from the Revive version. I could be wrong though. Maybe it does use some parts from it. But as far as I can tell, this thing looks different from the Revive version, as I'm pretty sure the Revive version is more of the television series look, whereas again, this is how it appeared in the Cucuroz Doans Island. And I just really love the way this thing looks. I wanted to see how the Guncannon would have looked in that origin style ever since I've seen the Gundam Origins. And it'd be cool if we could have seen the gun tank in this kind of look as well, but it is what it is. So first and foremost, I decaled this thing up. Now I think about it, I do not believe I lined this thing like at all. There's a few areas I colored in, like the thrusters there, if you can see that. I don't think I did the vents. I did some for the insides of the cannon. You probably can't really make that out, but I like to do those just so it looks a bit darker in there and recessed. But I might have did this little Vulcan here too. Try to do the Vulcans. These never come out right. I think I did these with my fine point black marker, but I need to use my gray one as that tip is actually more fine, whereas the black one I've used so much it's not even fine anymore. But anywho, so enough beating around the bush. We're gonna go ahead and go into articulation. So the articulation for the head is not very good, unfortunately, due to the fact that this thing has these high collars and the parts here for the cannon to kind of recess these down, so it doesn't really move much at all. It doesn't even really have too much down. It has decent up movement at least though, but again, the cannons go up and down a little bit. And what I love is the fact that they did some color separation for the pistons here. So it's just gray. It's not silver, but still, it pops very nice. And I love the fact that it even like recesses inside the cannons there very well. So I really love that extra aspect they did to the cannons, the Cucuroz domes with the pistons there. It looks very nice and really helps the cannons pop a bit. Also, want to mention that this thing looks a bit more like the mass-produced gun cannon that was seen in 0080 War in the Pocket. So I love the fact that the redesign of this thing kind of takes a few elements from the dare I say successor. So this thing actually has pretty decent hip movement and whatnot. Nothing too crazy, but again, I like it. I also want to shout out the clear part here. I love when they have clear parts for these things. This looks really amazing. So there's decent shoulder movement, nothing too crazy, but it wiggles around a little bit. And for most part, it's good enough for this thing to be able to pull off a cross arm pose with this. That gets a pass for me. It has a 360 movement there under the forearm there. Unfortunately, they didn't do much to accommodate how big and bulky the Guncan's design is, so pretty lackluster bend there over at the elbow. Of course, typical ball joint wrist, so you can do all you want with that. The side armor splits to the side there. There we go. I'd have to kind of dislocate a little bit. I can only get one out, but not the other, but that's all you're getting from the legs anyway, so it's not a big deal. You're not doing any splits with this big boy as it shouldn't. Strangely, the leg, though, is unhindered, as you can see here, because that recessed part at the back of the leg this other legs can bend very well, so that kind of carries this thing through articulation. And as per standard with modern high grades, there's a ball joint inside the waist that you can cut at will if you want to separate these, so that really helps get this thing doing some nice high kicks and what have you, which Amuro, I believe he did some kicks with the Guncannon and show. In fact, yeah, he did. I remember because he got his foot cut off doing it. But I believe that's really it for articulation. As for standard, of course, the back is paralyzed, doesn't move at all. But I don't think there's really anything else to show for articulation. So let's go ahead and peek at what this thing has accessory-wise and go on from there. So accessories for this thing, not much at all. Almost just tempted to take the hands off just to bolster this what few accessories come with this thing, but it's the simple lineup of open stretched hands. Actually, that's not even true. A lot of hybrids these days don't even have these. They just have the little age-old holding slash fist, the do-it-all hands. I don't even know what to call those things. We have the beam rifle here. I originally was going to take this off to show the hand a little better, but this thing is really in there. I'm afraid to force this thing off, but I do like the fact that it's like it's more gunmetal ABS type plastic, as this definitely helps the rifle pop out a little bit, especially since the hands are gray and most beam rifles are gray. So good on you, Bandai. And then next we have the missile spray launcher here, which is typically for high altitude use. So again, everything here is all stickered up. Almost want to say decap. I guess these are technically just stickers, really. Same for the rifle. I didn't really show that off earlier, but there are some stickers on this thing. Not much, just like what, 4, maybe 6. So with that being said, I guess we're gonna go ahead and look at what few accessories this thing has. So fast forward into the future a little bit, not because I forgot to show this thing off or anything, but of course, if you want to mount this thing onto an action base here, you just simply would make sure you have the peg here aligned with the hole, and voila, you can get this guy airborne and do some nice dynamic poses with it. So I don't know what else to say here. That's the thing you can do with this guy. So first and foremost, for accessories, we're going to go ahead and pop out the fist style hands here, and we're going to replace them with the outstretched hand. So pretty simple. Has 2 of them, which is actually very rare. Usually they'll do only one for the left hand, and then they'll have the shooting hands for the right. So I'm glad that they didn't cheap out with these things. And of course, the primary purpose of these hands is for you to be able to, these things pop up very easily if you couldn't tell, is to recreate the scene from the show where he kind of does the push-ups and then fires the cannons off. So good on them for keeping that in mind, even though they technically didn't even need to do that in Cucuroz Doan. In fact, I'm trying to think if he even did that in the movie, but moving on, we're of course going to take off one hand and replace the rifle on in there, which has the standard articulation for this thing, but we're going to do a bit of an articulation test here. And although this thing has kind of only decent arm movement, it's still good enough for this thing to be able to hold the rifle two-handed. But it looks a little awkward, but you could probably play around with that a little better, get into a much more, dare I say, natural looking pose. Yes, that's a little better. But moving on, we're not going to go too crazy. The rifle is not really much you can do with this thing outside of simple shooting poses. But of course, the process of taking off the backpack and switching it out for the missile spray pot is very simple. And I also love them for the fact that, unlike the original gun cannons through all scales, this thing has a separate backpack and a more of an updated look. I don't know why I'm struggling to get this thing in there so hard, but it gives a completely different backpack. So again, just to kind of compare and contrast them, they are nothing alike. This one, dare I say, looks a bit more like the classic Guncannon's backpack, whereas this one, again, it's like totally different. So I just love the fact that, again, they give it this like completely different look, with this one looking again more like the mass-produced gun cannons, and this one being more in the vein of the original look for it. So the spray pods can move a bit more down than the normal cannons can, but they can't move up as much. So you can't really do the squatting pose too well with them in this one. I guess if you were to kind of have them in some sort of way where, you know, geez, why does his hand keep popping off? You have him in a way where he's kind of like, I guess, like using the rocks as cover or something like that. You'd be able to do a pose like this, but, you know, you can't have him really doing push-ups, as it doesn't really quite angle right, in my opinion. I don't know. Maybe it's just me being a little picky. But I just love the color separation in this kit. It especially shows off with these missile pods with the gray, the white, and some of the darker grays in there. It just looks really good. And I, of course, color in the back of the pods here as well. I don't think these would be thrusters. I guess just fencing for it. So overall, if you guys couldn't tell, I'm very happy with this thing. I held off on getting this thing when it was first announced, but I eventually did go back and get it after the pre-order phase was up, and this thing was just like available standard in retail. And again, I do not regret getting it whatsoever. This is definitely probably the best Guncannon I have in my collection. And as me being a huge fan of the Guncannon, I couldn't be prouder to have this thing added. So, of course, for the decals, I did mention this earlier, there is another version of it, which I believe is WB104, which would be Kai's version. I have this as 109 for Hayatu's version, as this is primarily going to be the version I'm going to have this thing post. And I think I like the missile pods better than the normal cannons, which says a lot because both of them look pretty good. But for size comparison, I'm just going to pose this thing next to Slager's gem here. Keep it simple. And geez, I guess that's really about it. I can't think of anything else really to say or do here with this thing, so I'm gonna wrap it up like that. But of course, if you guys like what you've seen here, please feel free to give me a like and subscribe, and comment down below. Do you guys have this? What do you think of it? Anything you might want to say? I'd love to hear from you guys in the comments down below. And as always, this has been a Rare Modern Reviews, and I'll see you in the next review.